Alright, so here we go again. Hello everybody and welcome to another Victus 15 video. So just a quick recap. I uploaded a video showcasing a couple of games running on the Victus with precision boost disabled and received a lot of comments of people having performance issues with this model. This is the Ryzen 5 5600H with the RX 6500M GPU. So I've had issues with my Victus since day one and have repasted it multiple times without any great results. The frames would drop down to 15 for a few seconds and then just return to normal. HP actually released a BIOS update addressing a lag issue when gaming, which I was super excited about, but unfortunately did not have any effect on mine. This was BIOS update F16. Anything after F16 should already contain this fix. In another quick video, I showed that I made a new discovery with my Victus. The GPU temperature seemed to rise or stabilize when applying pressure to certain points on the chassis, which explains the reason why it works fine today but returns to lag fest tomorrow, without making any changes other than the location. In my case, the table wasn't completely straight, and changing its position could cause it to flex ever so slightly, thus having extreme frame drops one day and perfectly fine the other. So this is not normal. So in today's video, we'll be cracking it open to inspect the heatsink, as this is most likely the issue, and repasting it once more. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so here we have the HP Victus on its roof. We are gonna get this back cover off. We've got 1, 2, 3 screws up here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 here in the bottom. Just be sure to use the correct size screwdriver and apply a little more pressure when loosening these screws. You really don't want to round out, or you don't want to round the screw heads. You're going to open yourself a new can of problems when you do that. So apply good pressure and have the perfect size screwdriver for this job. If you're watching this video just to do the repaste, if you don't feel comfortable doing something like this yourself, you can always just get in contact with your local IT. They should be able to assist you with it. Let's just get these screws out. And you see, they're all the same size. You don't need to worry about the back cover having different size screws. That's all of them are the same, all 7 of them. Oops. Alright, all 7 screws out. So the easiest way that I found to pry it open was from this corner up here, which I will show you. So this is the side that has the network port here. I found it the easiest way to get it from this corner. So you want to get into this little gap here. There we go. Okay, so be very gentle when you pull this thing apart. You don't actually want to break any of the plastic clips. So be gentle. Don't be afraid, but be gentle. Voila! We've got one back cover removed. Okay, let's just put this here. Alright, so there is the Victus guts exposed. You've got your battery down here, your SSD here. This is the Wi-Fi card. There seems to be another slot for another NVMe drive up here, but it doesn't have the actual connector. And down here it looks like some model they might have a smaller battery, but this looks actually like a perfect location for a 2.5-inch drive. It actually still has two screw holes here that's not actually being used for anything, not the cover. The cover goes into this side here. So this could probably be where the brackets would be for a normal sized drive. So you got your RAM over here. I'm running dual channel. That is the best way to go for the best performance. So over here you have your two cooling fans and the heat pipe with the fins, and your GPU is under this plate here. Your CPU is on this side. So there is only also just 7 screws here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. So you'll actually see there are numbers on each of these screws. So when you tighten it, you need to do it in formation. So number 1 is going to be first, 2, 3, 4, is that 4? 4, 5, 6, 7. So you have to do it in sequence when you tighten it back up. Okay, so to remove this whole part here, it has 2 little brackets holding it. There's a little plastic bracket here holding it, and there's a little metal bracket here holding it. So I'm going to go ahead and let's remove this little plastic bracket. So this little plastic bracket is actually just holding the fins and the rest of the heat pipes in place. And same for this one here. This screw, we're going to remove this silver screw, this one only. This bracket also holds the heat pipes and things together. This one, okay, just pops off easy as pie. Okay. So now it doesn't actually matter in what order you remove it. This is just for tightening it. Don't be afraid to put on a little pressure because you don't want to round these out as well. They do have little springs on them, so there's no point in like tightening them more because it relies on the springs for the pressure. So don't over tighten them either. All right. So let's get the rest out. And I mentioned that this is going to be like repaste number 5, but repaste number 4 I used tremendous amounts of thermal compound, and you'll see what I mean. I'm not proud of it, but I was running out of options. Because repasting it doesn't seem to help. In some cases it helped, in other cases it seemed to get worse. But this one has been the best repaste so far, but there is a problem. That is why I've been having so much bad luck with repasting. It's not really making a difference. Alright, so I have removed all 7 screws, so this actually just lifts up. So keep in mind that you need to lift this up very gently, especially if you've never opened it before, because there is thermal pads under a lot of these things. I didn't use thermal pads, I didn't have any thermal pads. So I tore all of them. So just watch out for that. If you can, remove it very, very gently. In my case, there's not much thermal pads to be worried about. Come on. So in your case, remove it very, very gently so that you don't tear them. And that's what it looks like right now. There is thermal paste everywhere, where you only actually need a thermal paste on this little core here and on the actual CPU core there. You can see that I was I was over it, so I threw it with everything I had. Not proud of it, like I said, but now we need to continue to clean it. Clean it. You have to clean it very gently. Okay, so for the cleaning process, I'm just going to use some soft tissue, and I do have electrical spray as well. It works very well to remove this kind of stuff. So let's just get the most off of it first. Alright, so here it is, cleaned up. So now I want to check something, which I'm suspecting is that this heatsink might be bent. So this part here is copper, so it shouldn't, it's not like steel or anything, so it's pretty bendable. Let's check this side. Focus. Let's see this side. And you can actually see that it's arching. So if it's arching, it's most likely creating a bubble on the inside. You can actually see the light shining through the other side. Okay, let's check the other side. This one you can actually see from your eye that it's bent, especially to the right. Okay, let's get the ruler under there. And same thing with this one. I think this one actually has a bigger gap. It's huge. And you can see, yeah, it's definitely bent. So I think we might have found the problem. Wow, this thing is easy to bend. I can understand that something like this could even happen in shipping if it's so soft. This is very soft. Yeah, this is incredibly soft. So I think we might have found the issue. So as for the heatsink, it's actually so soft that you can just bend it with your hands. So I try to get it as straight as possible on both sides, but if you look at it this way now, it has wings on the sides now. So this is pretty much going to allow more pressure in the center. That's where we need more pressure. So let's try it out. Alright, so now that everything has been cleaned, you should actually be able to see a reflection on the CPU core there. So around all the cores, you got all these other components that also needs to be cooled down. You got your two memory modules here for the GPU, power regulators, and I have this pack of thermal pads. There's 3 different sizes in here, or thicknesses actually. So we're going to have to determine exactly which ones fit perfectly into which spot. Because if we're going to use one that's too thick, it might have trouble reaching the core then, because it's going to be in the air. And if you'll check on the heatsink here, so your CPU is going to be here, your GPU over here, the 2 memory modules, and then all the other surrounding components. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Luckily for you, it's just going to take you a second, and let's get cracking. Okay, so the heat pads have been installed. So now all we need to do is repaste and put it back together and see what happens. So I used a very thin heat pad. The only two thick ones was actually under the CPU, as you can see there. They are a little thicker than the other ones. They do seem to be making contact. If I put the heatsink on and you lift it back up, it usually sticks to the heatsink because it's copper. So another thing that I noticed, these little dots that you see on the core here, these are not residue left over. It's more like blemishes. You can actually try and scratch them off, or even with your nail. You can actually feel it, but it doesn't come off. It's like little holes. And this one also has, this is a GPU, it has a few of them. The CPU has a few of them. Just interesting. Alright, so it's finally time for the repaste. These are pretty clean. Just make sure that you don't have any finger marks on them. Okay, so if you're wondering what thermal paste I'll be using, it's Cooler Master HTK-002. It's fairly inexpensive. Been using it for years with no issues. You can see this core is actually very small, so I'm not going to use a lot this time. I'm trying to use a lot less than the previous time because we don't actually need that much in a real world situation. Okay. Now we just need to work it in everywhere. You don't actually have to worry about just spread it evenly. The heatsink will do the rest. Just make sure that you cover all the spots. So I'm using significantly less than my previous repaste. This one that I'm doing now is the one that I worry about the most. Perfect. Alright, so I think we are ready to reassemble. We have our thermal pads all in place. We have the thermal paste in place. We are ready to go. Just make sure that your contacts on this side here are all completely clean. I have sprayed them down again. Okay, so now be careful when you put it back so we don't create any smears. Put it back as straight as possible so that it lands on the thermal paste. Everything should be in place. There we go. We have landed. So like I mentioned before, and well, in the beginning of the video, is there's a pattern that you need to follow. So there's number one. So let's do number one. I get the feeling I'm forgetting something. Okay, and then number two. Number three. Now you see the GPU sequence is a little different. So number four, we're going to start on this side. As for number four, number five is actually a cross. Number 6 on the other side. Number 7 across. Okay, just give them a, just make sure that all of them are nice and snug. Don't over tighten them. Just give them a nice snug because they rely on the springs, not how tight you turn them into the motherboard. Okay, so let's get our brackets back here. Now this little bracket goes in this way. It uses a silver screw. Both silver screws are the same size, so you don't need to worry about which one came from where. I'm using the wrong screwdriver. Looks like I want to be rounding screws. Okay, that side is secured. Let's go for the little metal bracket. Alright, in place. So now for the plastic cover, just make sure, just double check when you're done. Just make sure that there's nothing left inside, a little piece of plastic or anything that you were working with might still be in the computer somewhere. I think we're good. Okay, so we're just gonna pop this cover back on. It has quite a few contact points, so just make sure that you get all of them. It is easy to miss a few. So when you're done, inspect every corner. Perfect. 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 And perfect. So now we can continue putting back the back cover screws. Like I mentioned earlier, they're all the same size. And apply a little bit of pressure so you don't strip the heads. Did you hear that? That's me slipping. Be very careful not to have to go in straight. These threads are absolutely tiny, so if you manage to get one in and it's not straight, it will strip the hole. Last one. All right. So now it's time for the fun part. So seeing this is making me very happy so far. It's on 71, 72 degrees and it's staying there. Everything boosted. I didn't disable precision boost this time, and it's sticking around 71, 72. But there is one test that I still need to complete, which is the flex test. So you can see here our frames are running around 110, 100, 110. The degrees now is 71. So when I used to, if I picked it up on this corner, it will cool down, but if I lift this corner, the temperature would ramp up. And I'm applying just as much pressure as I have. It's cooling down. Probably because I'm lifting it off the table. Wow. Wow. It's not doing, down to 69 now. Wow. I think we got it. Okay, so I'm gonna lift. And it's staying where it was because I lifted from the table now. It's actually under 70 degrees. This is 68. Wow. 67. I think we got it. I really think we got it. Okay, so the flexi test passed with flying colors. Let me grab this. So let's put the cooling pad under it right now. This is awesome. I am so happy with this. It is on 68 degrees right now. 68. 67. Wow, this is awesome. This is really awesome. So, after using it for a couple of days and putting hours into gaming, I'm very happy to report that I have not once experienced a 15 frame drop, and it's running so well that I can crank up the graphics without the GPU ever going over 64 degrees Celsius. And I'm even getting more frames than I usually would. With the GPU never hitting 76 degrees, it never needed to slow down to protect itself. With the bent heatsink, it wasn't making proper contact to the GPU at all times. And that was most definitely the cause for the overheating of the GPU. In some cases, the CPU even goes beyond 71 watts, which doesn't cause any stutters. This leads me to believe that the CPU power myth has been busted. However, I still recommend disabling Precision Boost, as it easily drops your CPU temperature by around 20 degrees with a minimal, very minimal impact in performance. Your CPU will not be under so much stress, and you'll even extend your battery life. Check out my other video if you're interested in trying it out. I'll leave it in the description below. So, after a lot of time, patience, and effort, my Victus has another chance of changing my perspective. It is finally performing the way that I wanted it to. Lucky repaste number 5, I guess. If you're still watching, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to click on my video, and I know your time is valuable. If you enjoyed the video or learned something today, please leave a like and even consider subscribing, as I have more content coming your way. And so this brings us to the end of the video. Peace and happy gaming!